What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Today is Monday, which means it is time for my show, Monday Mail Day, where I pick out questions from you, the viewers, and do my best to answer them. And I got a lot of good questions, so let me try to jam right through this. First question is coming from Chris Willis. What up, Ego? Do you feel that fighters who are extremely big for their divisions have an unfair advantage? Spence, Brook, Canelo, Jermall Charlo, and why is there little to no pressure for these guys to move up? Now, you could say it's unfair advantage, but that's kind of this generation of boxing. There's a lot of guys, and majority of them aren't fighting at their walking around weight. In fact, there's only a small handful of guys that I would say are doing that. Bernard Hopkins, Floyd Mayweather, things like that. Pacquiao probably. They're walking around, what they walk around at is closer to what they actually weigh on fight night or weigh in at, you know what I mean? Versus some of the other guys that are pretty big, like Canelo's and, like you said, Jermall Charlo, Kell Brook. I think all these guys are walking around way heavier. And like I said, it's just kind of the today's landscape of boxing. I talked to Andre Ward at his media day, and he was saying when he went to the Olympics, they didn't have Snapchat and stuff like that. So he said seeing Shakur Stevenson and Clarissa Shields and all the Olympians, and they're on Snapchat, on Instagram. He didn't have that. He said they had MySpace, and that's it. So I'm just basically saying it's a sign of the times, and this is what it is. Whether you like it, Olympians, you know what I mean, being on social media or not, it is what it is. Same thing with the weight thing. They don't do same day weigh-ins, so you don't really have a choice. So with that being considered, since this is the generation of boxing where most people aren't fighting at their actual fight weight, like even like Marvin Hagler, if you look at him and his power and stuff, he wasn't that big frame-wise compared to some of the middleweights today, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. So I haven't really thought about it, but as long as the fighters are being professional, coming in on that scale, not missing weight, stuff like that, then if they can make the weight, then great. And if they struggle to make weight, then that's only going to increase the likelihood that they'll have a lesser performance. So that's really on them. Like Canelo's fighting Liam Smith at 154, for example. He hasn't made that fight since Austin Trout. He made a lower fight versus Mayweather, so that was one. But since Trout or Mayweather, he's been fighting at 155. Now he has to shave an additional pound. So if he's struggling to make that weight and can't do it or whatever, then it's time for a move up. So it really just hurts them if they're crunching their body down too much and struggling to make that weight. And eventually, especially as you get older, it'll catch up to you. You know what I mean? The older you get, if you've been through wars and stuff, that's when it'll really catch up to you. So for now, as long as they're being professional and making weight, Errol Spence Jr., he's a big welterweight. Kell Brook, Jermall Charlo, all those guys are pretty big for the division. But it's boxing. You have to find a game plan for all the styles. Guys who move, guys who are great counterpunchers, guys with speed, guys with power, guys who have height, reach advantages. So it is what it is. As long as you're not doing things I have problems with, like Chavez Jr. He was having a contracted weight, missing that contracted weight, not trying to make that, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere at the weigh-in they renegotiate another fight weight. Or Edwin Rodriguez versus Andre Ward, Paul Smith, where you got guys who are coming in overweight, not even trying to make weight. Paul Smith came in like 4.5 pounds overweight, and he was a guy who was coming from 168. If you're a super middleweight and your next fight, you fought Arthur Abram twice and you fought that at 168, and then your next fight is Andre Ward at a higher catch weight of 173 or whatever it was, and you can't make that and you're still coming in 4.5 pounds, then to me that was like a strategic thing. You didn't even try to make weight, because how is a super middleweight can't even make a weight higher than what he fights at? You know what I'm saying? Which is 170 and change, 173 or whatever. That doesn't even make sense. So those are the examples that I don't really like. But guys like Errol Spence Jr., I don't really recall a time where he missed weight. So as long as he's making it, then it is what it is. Same with the Charlo brothers. I mean, their bodies will let them know when enough is enough, if they're too big. Because you got to look at it too. Last thing is the heavyweight division. You got guys like Deontay Wilder who might weigh 226, 230, and he's fighting people like Chris Arreola, who probably weighs 240 to 260. You know what I mean? He could possibly fight a guy like Tyson Fury or Vladimir Klitschko. Them dudes got weight to them. You know what I mean? 266, plus pounds. So the heavyweights deal with it. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. And weight is not going to be the only thing to win a fight. We've seen it time and time again with Floyd Mayweather. How many guys outweighed him and still lost? The Maidanas, the Canelos, things like that. Same thing with Pacquiao. How many guys weighed more than Pacquiao, but he still beat them? So weight's tricky, but as long as they're being professional. Next question is from Steven S. I ask every week, laugh out loud. A lot of you guys tell me that. I mean, I don't know if you guys see these videos. I get a lot of questions, so depending on when I record the video, it's just luck of the draw, I guess. I try to answer questions that I think the viewers would want to see. But anyway, Spence versus Lara, 154. Who the fuck wins? That's a tough fight. I want to say Spence Jr. because he has an impressive style, good body puncher. I seen Erislandy Lara. He's a great fighter, but I just watched his last fight live. I covered it. I was in like the second row against Vanes Martirosyan. And see, Vanes Martirosyan is not, to me, as accurate, and he doesn't pinpoint his shots like a Errol Spence Jr. does. You know what I mean? So that type of pressure, some people at the end of the fight were saying Vanes Martirosyan won. I still gave it to Erislandy Lara. I thought he did the cleaner work, effective. He had better defense. You know what I mean? Vanes was running into shots and he had some good body work, but overall I thought he was just getting hit with too many clean shots and things like that. But Lara's style, how he's been economical, even in fights with like Delvin Rodriguez, he's so economical where a fighter like Errol Spence Jr. is going to push the pace, and when he does land, like if you looked at the Canelo fight, Canelo started to like, fuck this. He tried to like say, fuck this, I'm not letting this Mayweather thing happen all over again, because Lara clearly won them early rounds, and then he started up the ante and picked up the pace. That's the kind of, from what I've seen, and this is the only difference, is the thing that makes this even more of a great fight is just because I don't know how Spence will look above 47 because I haven't seen him there. Again, I don't remember him fighting over 50 or 47, and if he did, it wasn't against someone like Erislandy Lara. So I think ultimately the reason I would give a slight edge to Spence is just basically if he handles the weight and fights the same like he's been fighting at 47, his constant pressure I think would make Lara uncomfortable. You've seen it with Vanes Martirosyan in spots, Alfredo El Perro and Gulo also, and those guys are less technical than Spence Jr. So if he can carry his power up and keep that constant pressure on Erislandy Lara and cut off the ring pretty well like he does, then I would give him the slight edge to win that particular fight. And the other thing is Lara is a southpaw, and so is Errol Spence Jr. So there's some trickery when it comes to that. Like a lot of orthodox righties have problems with southpaws. That's just the way it's always been. So guys like Vanes Martirosyan, who I believe is orthodox, guys like Canelo and stuff, ortho, those types of guys might have more struggle with the southpaw stance, especially someone as crafty, as elusive as a Erislandy Lara. But I think just the way Spence fights, his digging to the body and stuff, that's slow. That's the kind of game plan, like how Angulo did. That's the game plan you want against a guy like Erislandy Lara. Because for everything in boxing, you can counteract that. If someone has speed, you can negate that through timing. If somebody's moving too damn much, you can negate that with a jab, disrupt it. Like you want to move, bow, disrupt you, and you get caught clean with a stiff jab. Or dig to the body. That slows you down because you have to be in phenomenal shape to get your guts blasted out, pause, get hit to the breadbasket viciously like Errol Spence Jr. does, and continue moving for 12 solid rounds. So again, if Spence looks like the same fighter at 47 and moves up and carries his power, I would give a very slight edge to him, but we never know until the fight happens. Lara is crafty, he has a big frame, things like that, and he has speed, great left hand, so we see. But that's just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. Next question is from AJ's. What's up, Ego? Just like plenty others, I'm a boxing fan first. With that being said, one of my favorite fighters are Guillermo Rigondeaux. I've noticed Rigo has been fighting at 122 pounds more consistently than any other weight class. Just a quick comparison between Rigo and Triple G. Rigo clearly has the better resume and a more prestigious amateur career. They both have good amateur careers, but let me keep going. I'm just confused why the older Rigo isn't pressured to move up isn't pressured to move up to 126 and call out the Gary Russell, Walters, Santa Cruz at 126. I know it's not a guarantee they'll take the fight, but the fact that he's willing would be great. I see a lot of videos saying Triple G should move up, and I agree he should. I just don't see people calling for the older Rigondeaux to move up. I understand Rigo is very small, but skills pay the bills. Floyd did it, so I believe Rigo can too. What's your take on him moving up, and your take on why videos aren't being put out by his actual supporters for him to move up? Hashtag new media. Now, as far as the last part of your question, I don't know. I'm not really concerned with pretty much what anyone else puts out. I just kind of stay in my own lane and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know why other people don't put out certain content. New media, I just do what I do and keep on pushing. Do what I can do when I can do it. As far as Rigondeaux moving up, yeah, he might have to move up. But I think maybe some people don't pressure him as much as Gennady Golovkin is because, like you said, he has the better resume. Beating a guy like Donaire, who was knocking fools out and hadn't lost in 11 years, is more significant of a win based on who Donaire was. People had HBO and other people, credible people, had Donaire somewhere in their top 10, maybe towards the back or whatever, but he was still had cracked that top 10 list. Nobody that Golovkin has fought thus far, and not saying he hasn't tried to fight some of the Canelos and the Cottos, but for whatever reason it didn't pan out. He has not fought someone who, in my opinion, would be on the top 10 pound for pound list. Even this upcoming Kell Brook. Kell Brook is one of the best welterweights, but he didn't really do much at welterweight. If you really think about it, his best wins at welterweight are who? Shawn Porter, clearly number one, but who else? Sinchenko, Carson Jones, Kevin Bezier, Jojo Dan. I mean, what is it? Frankie Gavin. So I would have liked to see Kell Brook do a little bit more. So I think that might be the reason. Another thing is Rigondeaux is tiny. You know what I mean? He's not a big frame dude, and it's not like he's known for the same, I guess, style as Golovkin. Golovkin's known as Mexican style. That's what a term him or his team coined for him, like Mexican style. He has a chin, he's gonna bring the pain, kind of like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., things like that. So if that being the case, plus he also has a great amateur background, and he's this force, this power puncher. Some people even compare him to Mike Tyson, which I see literally no similarities other than they both have power. Completely different fighters, but that's the stigma for Golovkin. So why not move up, especially when you're being avoided as well? You know what I'm saying? So that's just, I guess, the best way I can answer it. Guys have left the division to not fight Rigondeaux. I haven't seen that at middleweight. I haven't seen anyone who left middleweight to not fight him. I've seen guys at middleweight who have not chose to fight him, to fight Golovkin, but I haven't seen anyone leave the division. Even Canelo, he vacated his belt. That's probably the closest to that situation where he vacated his belt. But he said in a recent interview that most likely after Smith, if he gets past him, he's probably going to move up to middleweight. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to Rigondeaux, he can move up if he wants, 126. But guys have literally left the division. Abner Matas, guys like Nonito Donaire, and then he got knocked out by Walters and dropped back down. First of all, if you remember, Donaire said he couldn't make 122 anymore after the Rigondeaux fight. And then after he gets beat by Walters, like, oh man, these guys are too big, too strong, hitting too hard, so he dropped back down. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of questionable. Same thing Amir Khan did versus Canelo. He's like, oh, maybe Amir Khan is a natural middleweight. And then he gets stretched by Canelo and knocked out brutally, and now all of a sudden he can make 147. But leading up to the fight, when he was confident that he could beat Canelo, he wasn't saying that. He was saying, oh, I've been killing myself to make 147. It's just too hard. So if it's too hard, why are you dropping back down? Why aren't you staying at 154? Because he realized he bit off more than he could chew after he got knocked out. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Donaire going up to 126, and he realized he didn't have the same power advantage over everybody like he did at 122. Things like that. Obviously, Carl Frampton, he could make the weight long enough to cash out and get a Scott Quigg fight, but then immediately upon that, then he moves up and fights Leo Santa Cruz. You know what I mean? Leo Santa Cruz pieced out too. So you had no trouble when you were fighting the Mahadas and guys like that. And Eric Morales, Leo Santa Cruz didn't have problem making 122. And then when Rigondeaux's on your ass and calling you out time and time again, then all of a sudden you can't make the weight anymore. So I don't think Triple G's in that situation quite yet, because people have avoided him, but they're not leaving the division to avoid him. And ultimately, like you said, Rigondeaux has a better resume. Guys like Joseph Igbeko, that was a notable warhorse type of fighter, and most importantly, Nonito Donaire, right? There's no one on Golovkin's resume that I can think of that is like a Donaire. Donaire, like, look at it. He had one loss early in his career. He was known for his power, speed, and chin. He had stretched guys who were favored to beat him, like Vic Darchinyan at the time, or Fernando Montiel. He had beat Mexican like legends like Jorge Arce and the high-ranking that Japanese guy Tashioka or whatever. He had fought the Jeffrey Matabulo guys that are about 6 feet tall, Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. before he took a bunch of other losses and stuff like that, right? And he was known for having a chin. So who is Golovkin fought? He fought Rosado, who had already been stopped by Angulo, who started boxing late, had to learn on the job, was at 154, had to move up to 160. David Lemieux even, he fought for a vacant title, became a champion, but he had 2 back-to-back losses in a row in his career before he fought Golovkin. And the first one was a stoppage loss to Marco Antonio Rubio. So I don't see any Donaire level opposition on Golovkin's resume at the moment for whatever reason. So that's my best thing. Rigondeaux can move up though if he wants to fight the Gary Russells and stuff like that, but he's having to chase people because they don't want to fight him, and it's clear to me. Next question is from Reese the Comedian. Why does when a fighter take a loss, they are exposed and garbage? Amir Imam, AB took a few, even Wilder's undefeated, but somehow he is trash. But when fighters like Pacquiao get knocked the fuck out cold, it's okay. Or Loma takes a loss, it's okay. Now, to me, that's just fanboyism and favoritism, tribalism. Whatever fighter you like, you're going to say these radical things. I heard people say that Andre Ward's out of prime. You know what I'm saying? How's he out of prime and he's still outclassing people 12 rounds out of 12 rounds, right? He's facing a tall order against Sergey Kovalev, definitely a difficult fight, but to this point, he's beating people pretty dominantly. They did a recent survey on Andre Ward, and in his last 114 rounds, he's won 107 of them. It was something ridiculous like that. So that means he lost 7 rounds out of that many rounds. You know what I mean? And that's more of an anomaly. So I wouldn't say he's out of prime, but again, if you hate Andre Ward, you'll probably say that. AB, another person who you either love him or hate him. It's very seldom that people feel in the middle about Broner. Usually people have radical love for him or radical hate for him. You know what I mean? So after Maidana, because he got thrashed by him, you're happy. So you're like, aha, he was overrated. He's not the next Floyd. Fuck off. You know what I'm saying? That's a hell of a consolation prize, because a lot of people that hate Broner hate Floyd. You know what I'm saying? So since no one's been able to beat Floyd and you have to endure Floyd keep winning, you know what I mean? That was a hell of a consolation prize seeing Broner get thrashed by Maidana. But if it's a fighter you like Lomachenko, then he takes an early loss and you're like, oh, he just went, no, he wasn't ready. It was his second fight. You know what I mean? Because you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. You want to make excuses for why he lost to Orlando Salido. Oh, it's too premature. I mean, that's fine and dandy, but at the same time, he's the one that pushed for it. He's the one that pushed to fight Orlando Salido. So that was dumb. You know what I mean? He should have at least had a couple of fights, because he's skilled. You know what I mean? He beat Gary Russell like shortly after that. So he has skill, but it's whatever. Same thing with Pacquiao. Pacquiao's been knocked out more, probably at this point, probably the same amount as Amir Khan. I think they have, let me think. Amir Khan got knocked out by Bradis Prescott. I'm talking about out. Bradis Prescott, Danny Garcia, and now Canelo. And then Pacquiao got knocked the fuck out by Marquez in the 4th fight. Rustico Torrecampo, and he got knocked out with a body shot and a headshot. So yeah, I think they both have 3. But again, some people hate Amir Khan. He's another person who gets a lot of radical hate for his views or his confidence or whatever, and people don't put that into perspective. Like, Pacquiao's been knocked out this many times too. Now the only difference is Pacquiao has more fights, but I mean, when he was fighting the Philippines, who were a lot of those guys? You know what I mean? So it's easier to get. Amir Khan was pretty much on a fast track because he was a silver medalist. That's why they put him in with Bradis Prescott. He was pretty young, like 19 years old. So it just, to me, to answer your question, it boils down to favoritism. And if you like a fighter, you're going to give him that benefit of the doubt and go that extra mile. But you wouldn't do that for fighters you don't like. You know what I mean? Same thing with, like, if you hate Deontay Wilder, you're gonna accuse him of ducking first chance you get. Like, oh, he ducked Povetkin, he doesn't want to fight. But then when Povetkin fails a drug test, you want to be, oh, let's wait. Like, he didn't really fail, or you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So just really based on favoritism and emotion. Next question is from Elver Galarga. Do you think UFC fighters get underpaid? Yes. And if so, what do you think the fighters should do to get good money? McGregor Diaz 2 did 1.5 million pay-per-view, and Conor McGregor got 13 million. If it was Floyd and did those numbers, he would have got at least 40 million. Yeah, I mean, there's no comparison. And then Stitch Duran got fired for speaking out, but them losing endorsement deals and having to wear Reebok, that really messed it up too, because a lot of those UFC fighters were getting a ton of endorsement deals and, you know what I mean, wearing the logos and stuff on their attire, and then they stopped being allowed to do that. So that cut it. It made more money for the UFC as a corporation, but it kind of hurt the fighters. So yeah, I mean, UFC has a good following, good viewership, but they don't get paid as much, you know what I mean? You look at like look at like some of the women, the women's fighting, like Ronda Rousey, who was on top. Look at her salaries in her big fights, you know what I mean, where she was still winning. Look at Holly Holm, look at all them. Robert Guerrero, who has like 3 losses, now 4 probably, but he had, at the time, going into the David Peralta fight, I think he had 3 losses in his last 5 fights, something like that. He lost to Mayweather, he lost to Thurman, he lost to Danny Garcia. I think he should have lost to Aaron Martinez, right? Even though he won that fight technically, stuff like that. He got $500,000 to fight against David Peralta, which it was an upset. But who the hell is David Peralta? You know what I mean? No one even knew who he was. Now they might be checking for him, but they didn't really know who he was. Go look at some of the UFC purses. A lot of them guys, unless you Conor McGregor, Brock Lesnar or something, you probably aren't getting the $500,000 guaranteed. Sometimes they do little stuff like you get 125 or 250 with the win bonus, but that means you got to win. You know what I'm saying? So the pay scale's way different in the UFC, and that's just a fact. And again, I challenge anyone to do side by side. Look at Pacquiao fighting Bradley 3. He got a guaranteed $20 million for that. $20 million, and no one even wanted to see the Bradley 3 fight because they thought he beat Bradley 2 other times. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor got good paydays fighting Chad Mendez, Jose Aldo, and the Diaz fights, but that's top level competition. You know what I mean? Top level guys in or around his division. Next question is from Man in Water. Why did they make a big deal about the possibility fighting Crawford at 140 if he's such a small welterweight that has to overeat just to maintain his weight? I think you're referring to Manny Pacquiao possible fight with Crawford. I don't know. I've already said my piece when it comes to that fight. I think it should have happened. It could have happened, but it didn't. So Jesse Vargas it is. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not even worth talking about because every time I speak on it, the people who are diehard Pacquiao fans, no matter what, they're going to find an excuse. Oh, Pacquiao didn't say it. Freddie Roach said it. I mean, but that's his trainer. That's a guy who is with him every single day, at least when he's fighting, and he should know his fighter. If not, why did Pacquiao appoint people if we're not to trust them as a public? Why does he have Bob Arum as his boss and promoter? Why does he have Michael Conks? Why does he have his trainer, Freddie Roach, longtime trainer, the longest trainer-fighter duo in boxing history, I believe? If I can't take anything Freddie Roach says, I got to take everything with a grain of salt. Those are the people he appointed. Those are people on his squad. Just like if you are the manager, store manager at Best Buy, you're in charge of your employees. So if your employee starts cussing someone out, then you got to discipline them. You got to go and actually fire them because they hit a customer or whatever the situation is. So I don't want to hear that. Freddie Roach said Pacquiao's best weight's at 140. Crawford is at 140, and that's a higher selling fight. More people probably would want to see that than Jesse Vargas, and they didn't choose it. So it is what it is. That's what his team decided. But don't tell me that I shouldn't be listening to his right-hand man, aka his trainer. You know what I mean? Next question, Ferg FTW Ego, what's good? What are your thoughts on Spence versus Porter? Love it. I saw a recent video from Fight Hype, and Porter said he'd be down to fight Errol. Do you think they could possibly fight for the IBF if Brook vacates? It doesn't look like Lamont wants to fight Errol. I mean, I don't blame Lamont Peterson. He's coming up from 140. Last fight at Diaz, I don't know if that was a catch weight. but his one before that with Danny Garcia was a catchweight at 143. We've seen Lamont Peterson, hell of a fighter, but he's been dropped before. He's been dropped by guys like Amir Khan. He got dropped by Victor Ortiz, things like that. He got stopped and dropped by Lucas Matisse. So, I mean, I wouldn't be in a rush to fight Errol Spence Jr. That's a bad look for him. And I rate Lamont Peterson, but moving up as your first fight, that's a deadly fight, especially since Lamont Peterson, I just thought about with your question, I ain't seen him in a minute since Felix Diaz. Felix Diaz has even been back, and he beat Sammy Vasquez. You know what I'm saying? So that's actually a good fight, Felix Diaz versus Errol Spence Jr. 2 Olympians. I like that. But yeah, I haven't even seen Lamont Peterson, so with his inactivity and the fact that he's been dropped numerous times, I wouldn't be rushing to fight Errol Spence Jr. either, you know what I mean? Especially just coming up to that division, because boxing is not like the UFC. If you take a couple losses, people start counting you out and you're like, oh, this dude's a bum, retire. So yeah, I don't blame Lamont Peterson based on his inactivity and him just moving up to welterweight possibly. But as far as Shawn Porter Spence, I love it. It's a great fight. I don't even know if Shawn Porter wants to take that, because it's coming off the Keith Thurman loss. Whether you thought he won or lost, it's a loss on his record, and it's a good fight, but it's a dangerous fight for both. Dangerous fight for Porter, because he doesn't want to lose to a young and hungry lion, especially when guys, a lot of welterweights have put Spence Jr. on the back burner. Like, oh, he got to do more. He looks cool now, but he hasn't fought elite level. So if when it comes to it, you actually fight him and lose, then that's not necessarily a good look. Chris Algieri did that. We interviewed him on Dante's Boxing Nation, and he was like, yeah, I don't know why this guy's getting so much praise. I mean, he doesn't look that special to me. And then Chris Algieri got stopped by Spence Jr. So, you know what I mean? It looks bad because Spence clearly didn't have the resume that Algieri had, win or lose, because he had been in there with Amir Khan, Pacquiao, Ruslan, Emmanuel Taylor. And then the guy you kind of like downplayed ended up stopping you. So definitely a dangerous fight for Porter coming off of a loss. But it's also a dangerous fight for Spence, because Porter showed a hell of a beard. He brought the fight to Keith Thurman, and he stayed on top of him whether he was hurt or not. You know what I mean? So you got to give him credit. So it's a good fight. It'll be, to me, Spence's toughest test based on the style matchup, 4 rounds. But I would probably favor Errol Spence Jr. based on the way Shawn Porter comes in. Is just kind of reckless, and I think body shots, he's shorter and stuff like that. But I don't know, maybe Porter can get low and get compact and give Spence a taste of his own medicine and stay on top of him to the point where he smothers everybody's work and Spence can't use his range and reach. So it's a good fight. I like the fight for sure. Dangerous fight for both. Next question is from TZ Frank. Where does Guerrero go next after his loss on Saturday? I think he should think about retirement. Now, he said he's going to fight again. I mean, it's hard to come away from the game, so I can't tell a man when to retire. I've tried that for years. You know what I mean? My favorite fighter, Roy Jones Jr., refused to retire, and then he ended up losing to guys who weren't even that good. You know what I mean? Guys that he clearly would have destroyed in his prime. So I'm not in the business of telling people when to hang him up. I mean, I could say, yeah, Guerrero doesn't look the same. He looks like a shell of his former self. Definitely doesn't look like the fighter in the lighter weight divisions, but ultimately that doesn't matter. You got guys like Mike Alvarado, and he's still fighting. You know what I mean? He's been through wars, and boxing is a brutal game, man. It's not too long ago that Mike Alvarado was being touted as one of the best. You know what I mean? He was at 140. He was undefeated. He fought Bradis Prescott, almost lost the fight, came back around, and then tough fight after tough fight. Brandon Rios, tough fights. Ruslan Provodnikov, Juan Manuel Marquez, all that. Now people are like, oh, he's shot. You know what I mean? Because he's been stopped and he's racked up some losses. Same thing with Guerrero, fighting tough competition, not giving yourself enough time to heal and bounce back. I mean, hey, it is what it is. So that's up to him if he wants to retire. If he does want to keep fighting, I think the reasonable fights out there for him are maybe Adrian Broner, but that's kind of dangerous based on how Broner just looks fresher, and he put Shawn Porter on his back. So I think his power is pretty decent. I mean, Peralta sat him down and didn't get credit for it. You know what I mean? So I don't know if Guerrero's chin is shot from all the wars or whatever, but that's a dangerous fight. But I would like to see it. Adrian Broner, see if he can pull a rabbit out the hat. Robert Guerrero versus Josecito Lopez could be a good war. Amir Khan, those are fights I think he should take. Maybe even a Devin Alexander. Fight someone in that echelon, Chris Algieri, something like that. I don't think he's ready for a title shot based on how he's looked in recent memory. That's just my opinion. Next question is from Willie Make It. Ego, now that PBC is the official top network for boxing, giving us fights for free, don't these naysayers owe Heyman an apology? Yes, but they will never do that. When the Waddell and Reed story hit and guys turned into YouTube accountants, they were praying for PBC's downfall. Now HBO boxing staff, including Thomas Hauser, may be out of a job soon and just might have to ask Heyman if he's hiring. Hashtag karma. Yeah, man, we already know what time it is, but the great thing about what I'm doing with new media is you can check my track record. All of this stuff is documented. You can see what I said in 2013, 14, 15, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like a filing cabinet here on YouTube. Everything is saved, right? So that's the great thing about it. So real recognizes real. People know who was saying what, and people remember that. And that's the thing. Some of these YouTubers or writers, they're under the impression that we're living in the 30s or something where technology isn't as advanced as it is. You know what I mean? You can Google Al Heyman boxing ego and it'll probably pull up different hits of things I've said about Al Heyman. You know what I mean? You can pull up Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao 140 and go to Google and it'll pull up things that Freddie Roach said about Pacquiao going to 140. You know what I mean? So that's the most important thing. And that's the ultimate tool is technology. Everything that, and then if you have to delete your videos or delete your articles or whatever, then that tells you what time it is. If you're trying to hide something, it's a cover up. So yeah, they owe PBC an apology because clearly PBC's killing. I mean, HBO, they're not giving us really any face-offs. They're not giving us 24/7. And I love the 24/7 series. I'm on record in past videos saying I like 24/7 better than I like All Access for the most part. You know what I mean? And I like Liev Schreiber better than I like Barry Pepper or whatever they have for All Access. But Showtime, PBC, definitely killing HBO right now. And all the PBC naysayers, they're having to eat crow at the moment because that, I mean, realistically, if it wasn't for PBC, boxing would be in a bad space because if you look at the fights that are coming up, a lot of them you have to pay for, and most of them aren't carrying the torch. A lot of them are conceived or perceived as mismatches, like Golovkin Brook. I mean, who's picking Brook to really beat Golovkin at middleweight? No catch weight, no rehydration clause, nothing like that. Canelo, Liam Smith, who's really picking? And now these fights could turn out to be something. We'll have to wait and see. But on paper, it's not looking like the fights we want to see. And on PBC, you're getting Thurman Porter, Carl Frampton, and Leo Santa Cruz, guys like that. You know what I'm saying? Danny Garcia he has a fight that's coming up, and that should be announced soon. I'll update that when it's actually announced. So I mean, PBC's killing, and in between, you still have fights like Andres Fonfara, Joe Smith Jr. upset, Robert Guerrero, David Peralta upset. You know what I mean? You got these little upsets, and little Broner's gonna be back. He should be fighting before the year's end, right? You got a lot of different stuff, even upcomers like Tank, Floyd's TMT fighter, Gervonta Tank Davis, right? He should be fighting Jason Sosa probably on Spike TV or something like that. So, you know what I mean? You got in between fights like that. Not the biggest fights, but that should be a good fight. You know what I mean? It's not big, massive fights because of the names, but that's a sleeper fight. That I would definitely encourage someone to watch that because I think that's an all-out war type of fight. So you got all levels. You got top level fights like big name, big stars, big mesh of styles, stylistically good fights like the Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton, the Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman that are delivering. But then you also got fights like Felix Diaz versus Sammy Vasquez. I enjoyed myself with that fight. Didn't have huge names in it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun, competitive fight. Wilder Areola. That wasn't a big fight. That was a understudy, last minute replacement, but it was enjoyable. I mean, Wilder got the stoppage, Areola's game. He was dancing in there. So it's something to do. Broner, Theophane, that wasn't the most meaningful fight, but I enjoyed it, you know what I mean, as something to do as a real boxing fan. So PBC is clearly killing right now. Next question, Jesse Kirkland. What up, Ego? Appreciate the show and the insight. 2 quick questions. When do you think the IBF will order that fight between Spence and Brook? It should be, since Kell Brook was already on board to fight Golovkin before the Eliminator, which is Spence Bundu, and we know the winner is Spence now because it's happened. So it should be within 10 days or so after Golovkin Brook outcome, win or lose. If Brook gets knocked out, I think he has like 10 days to decide what he's going to do, if he's going to drop back down or whatever, or for the camps to talk and get the ball in motion. If he beats Golovkin and he's becomes a champion at 160, then he has to decide what he's going to do for his belt. So does he vacate 2 losses in a row? Would be a bad look for him. I don't see him come back down to 147. That's just my premonition. That's my pre-guess on the whole situation. Also, do you think Triple G will ever get all the belts, or should he just move on? I mean, when people say that, this is what I don't understand. People say Golovkin is hitting middleweights and cruiserweights and stuff like that, and he's hurting cruiserweights and heavyweights and sparring, stuff like that. So he could do the Floyd approach, and he'll get a lot of accolade for doing that. Floyd Mayweather was never a permanent resident at 154. He's not the biggest guy at 154. If you put Jamal Charlo next to Floyd Mayweather, whoever's the bigger Charlo, I think it's Jamal, put him next to Floyd's going to look like dwarf, because I seen a picture of Canelo and the Charlo brothers, and Canelo looks tiny, and Canelo is about Floyd's height, but Canelo is stockier. He's thicker, bigger bone structure. He looks denser. His neck, his calves and stuff, he looks bigger, right? So Floyd has never been a permanent resident at 154. He has 2.5 fights there, though. He fought De La Hoya. He went up. That was a big money fight, and that's what passed on the cash cowness. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just make up my word because I'm the A side on this YouTube shit. But yeah, that's what passed on the cash cow from De La Hoya to Money May. That birthed Money May. He was Pretty Boy before that, right? Then he went up there for Cotto. That's a big money fight. That's a good look for his resume, so he did it. Then he dropped back down. That's how it works. You know what I mean? Then he moved back up when the time was right to fight Canelo. He fought him at a catchweight of 152. Golovkin can do the same thing. Billy Joe Saunders, let these dudes scrap and see who holds on to the belt. Let's say he beats Brook, and Danny Jacobs beats Sergio Mora, Billy Joe Saunders, and nobody's trying to fight Golovkin. Golovkin can peek his head into 168, go after Gilberto Ramirez, who Arum and Ramirez have both called out and called for the fight. Ramirez is now a champion with a Mexican following. He's an undefeated fighter with a height advantage, like a 6'2" height advantage, and an entertaining style, where he actually showed some boxing in his last fight with Arthur Abram. So you can take a fight like that, which is still a risk, even though Golovkin probably will be the favorite. I don't know. But you could peek your head in there, take that fight. If you beat him, then you're a champion at 168. And then you determine, like Floyd, what you want to do with the belt. And then if Billy Joe Saunders or Chris Eubank or whoever has the belt at that time, the last belt that you need, go back down and fight them. You say you can make the weight easy, and Golovkin looks like a professional when it comes to making weight. It's a no-brainer to me. Again, Floyd Mayweather was never a permanent resident at 154. He didn't just put it this way. The reason I know what I'm saying is true is because name a time where Floyd Mayweather had back-to-back fights contracted at 150 plus. So where he fought at 154 and his very next fight was at 154. You won't find it. It was all spread out. Golovkin could do the same thing versus a Canelo, versus a Charlo, versus Erislandy Lara. Look at Erislandy Lara's fights. All of his last couple fights have been at 154 or better, right? Same thing with Canelo. All his recent fights have been at 55 or 54, 52. They've been in the 50s, right? Golovkin could do the same thing and then come back down and still unify. You have a time frame for your belts. Golovkin he's a champion with a name. So the belt holder, the sanctioning bodies where he holds the belts at 160 are not going to be in a rush to, I would imagine they would like someone like Golovkin to have their belts because it brings a lot of attention to their organization. So they're not going to just, their rules are rules. So if he waited too long, they'll strip him, but they're not going to go out of their way to strip him and enforce the rules like they don't do with certain fighters. You know what I'm saying? Even Floyd had belts for probably longer, and then other people like Chris Algieri got a belt off Ruslan Provodnikov, and he got stripped within 5 or 6 months before he fought Pacquiao. So you know what I'm saying? Rigondeaux got stripped quick. Demetrius Andrade, because those guys aren't really stars. So that's going to be a whole nother conversation. So I'm going to drop it right there. Golovkin can peek his head in at 168 at age 34, do something great for his resume, rack up a body there, and be the champion like a James DeGale or Gilberto Ramirez or whoever, Badu Jack. Fight one of those guys, get your stripes up there, and then he could drop back down and still defend and try to unify in that division. And that'll make him even more the man. Damn, he had a fight at 168. See, I know my boxing. Keith Thurman, it wasn't a championship fight, but he was having a hard time. He had his HBO debut. He was having a hard time getting some fights at 147 because at that time, a lot of people didn't know. Even guys like Maidana passed up. They had a signed deal for Maidana Thurman, and they seen his knockout ratio, and I think did some of their homework, and they're like, man, fuck that. And Maidana chose not to fight Keith Thurman. So at that time, Keith Thurman was gunning for everybody. You know what I mean? This is before the Collazo body shot that had people worried and shit like that. And the thing is, Thurman was having difficulty getting fights at 147 at that time. He was calling out Mayweather, calling out Pacquiao, all these people. But his name was still developing, so it really didn't make sense. So people could overlook him. What did Thurman do? He went up to 152, I believe, and he knocked out Carlos Quintana, right? At 152. Then he dropped back down to 147. Golovkin can do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's just something to do in the meantime to further build your name. Now people's like, okay, Keith Thurman got some power at 152. He was able to stop a crafty guy that's been in there with Berto, and I forgot who Quintana beat back in the day, but he used to have a solid name or someone on his resume. But that's my point. Next question, a casual fan. Hey Ego, I've never had an issue with an issue. I think that's a typo. Never had an issue with fighters, boxers moving in combat sports. However, I do have an issue with the media and their selective criticism when it comes to movement. Floyd Mayweather would move laterally to keep his opponents off balance and continuously resetting, while McGregor would literally turn around and hop on skates. Skates. Is it just me, or do you notice the double standard too? Of course I notice the double standard, new media. But again, it's no point to beat a dead horse. I've been saying this stuff, and it doesn't matter. I could say it, people still dislike it. Like I said, the model for new media is this: you can dislike, but you can't disprove. It is what it is. Conor McGregor, he clearly ran. I've never seen, I'm being honest, I've literally never seen Floyd get on his bicycle like that, where he turned his whole back in the manner of Conor McGregor, like in a frantic way. You know what I'm saying? It's always more so moving with a purpose. The closest thing I would say to Floyd Mayweather doing something like that is, let's say it's the 12th round and he's clearly won the fight, like versus Berto. Sometimes Floyd won't engage, and he clearly won pretty much all the rounds and is just doing a victory lap because he knows unless he gets knocked out, he clearly won the fight. That's not what Conor McGregor was doing. He looked like he had his energy zapped. He was dealing with Nate Diaz, who was just durable as fuck and was coming on, and he didn't like that constant pressure, and he had landed some of his best shit in round 1 and round 2, dropped Diaz 3 times or whatever, was kicking the hell out of him, and this Terminator style fighter kept coming for him, and it was at a higher weight. He has issues carrying his weight at 170. He should drop back down. And as a result, he was buying time because he's literally turned his back and started running. Like you said, got on skates, looking up at the clock like, fuck. I bet you the 5-minute rounds seem long as fuck when you got a guy like Diaz who's just on your ass and won't quit. You got to stop him. And that's why I told people, Diaz, you don't really see him brutally hurt to the point where he gives up or some shit. He's not Victor Ortiz or he's going to quit. He's just going to keep coming unless you get him up out there, like submit him or actually knock him out where he's like, you know what I mean, has no function. So it is what it is. I noticed the double standard is there. It is what it is. I've never seen Mayweather aimlessly move like that. It's always like to throw fighters, like you're saying, cause them to reset, throw them off rhythm. Canelo's a big dude, and he's young. He's like 13 years Mayweather's junior when they fought. So it doesn't make sense to stand in front of him and trade like James Kirkland. You've seen what happened. If you just stand there and trade with no kind of game plan. Floyd's much smaller and probably hits less hard than James Kirkland, right? So you never give a fighter the advantage. So, I mean, McGregor did what he had to do to win, but the way he won in some of those rounds, like he just looked like he didn't have a plan. He really just turned his back and like started jogging, literally jogging, and people sweep it under the rug. But it is what it is. McGregor's a good fighter, but he needs to leave 170 alone because he doesn't look like the same fighter. Next question, Jason Brown. Brook versus Triple G. what are the ramifications for Triple G, win or lose? I mean, if he loses, that's a bad look because he's saying this is the toughest test for me. So if he loses, then damn, you had your toughest test and you didn't ace it and you lost. If he wins, to me, it doesn't really signify anything different. I think he's the best middleweight. You're hard pressed to see a guy from 2 weight divisions below come up to his weight and beat him. You know what I mean? Because even if Kell Brook boxed just like Amir Khan, one shot could change things around for Golovkin. Furthermore, when you're dealing with the bigger man, his punches are probably going to look more impactful. Just like when Chavez Jr. was fighting Brian Vera. Brian Vera was doing some really good work, and I thought he won the first fight. But a lot of people gave it to Chavez Jr. just because for every 5 to 10 shots that Brian Vera landed, Golovkin, if he landed 2, they looked thudding. You know what I mean? It looked like they were pushing the smaller man back. So a lot of people judge boxing like that. Like, oh, fuck, Chavez's punches look like they got more mustard on them. You know what I mean? And that's the same thing. So it's just like, to me, it's kind of a dumb fight for Brook. It's like a money grab type of fight because you're going to either outbox him and you have to stay safe where you're not getting knocked down or rocked or whatever, or knocked out. You know what I mean? But even if you outbox him, it's hard to look masterful against a guy who may be hurting you with most of his shit that he lands flush. But whatever. Also a loss, even though I don't think it's a high chance. Does it automatically make Triple G out as a fraud? I mean, I don't really think it'll make him a fraud. I mean, maybe he's not what he's cracked up to be if he loses to Kell Brook. But, I mean, shit, it's fucking boxing. Anything can happen. Antoine Douglas, Mike Tyson, Amir Imam. I can think of tons. Broner. A ton of people who lost before their time. Sammy Vasquez recently. He lost to a last-minute replacement in Felix Diaz. I mean, granted, his last-minute replacement is a gold medalist, but still. Felix Diaz, if you look at his resume, he lost to Lamont Peterson. Even though I watched boxing and I know it's a tough fight. And I know some people thought Felix Diaz beat Peterson, but if you just go to BoxRec, you'd be like, oh, this dude lost to Peterson, an up-and-coming prospect who stopped Aaron Martinez, beat guys like, in my opinion, Robert Guerrero. He should have won that fight. He beat Devin Alexander, and Sammy Vasquez beat him and stopped him. You know what I'm saying? So to see him lose to a guy who, like a Felix Diaz, anything could happen. Thanks for the chance to ask a question, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. No problem. I hope I answer that question. Basically, if Triple G wins, he's expected to win. This means everything if Brook wins, just because he's a smaller man and it's a David versus Goliath type of situation. So those situations, those types of fights, to me, it's always kind of more of a one-way fight. If the best that will become of it for Triple G is if he looks good over there in the UK and he gets more fans from a different demographic, a different region. Like, oh, damn, you see what he did to our UK fighter? And, you know what I mean, he can rack up some casual fans or fans from a different region. But him beating Brook is what is expected by most to happen based on the weight. Next question, Bruce Taylor. Who do you think would be the best promoter for King Kong Ortiz now that he has parted ways with Golden Boy? Clearly, Al Heyman would be the numero uno for me just because he has so many heavyweights. He has the Chris Areolas. He has the guys like Charles Martin. He has Deontay Wilder, of course. I think he even has the Gerald Miller. So his stable is just so deep. And he has a working relationship with other people. Al Heyman, like if he signed with Al Heyman, see, this is the thing. People say Al Heyman's the cancer of boxing. He only puts on mismatches or fights he knows his fighters will win. Then why the fuck did Al Heyman put Charles Martin in his first title defense in there with Anthony Joshua? And you've seen what Joshua did to him. And then after that, after Charles Martin got destroyed, he put Dominique Brazil, an undefeated fighter, in there with Anthony Joshua, and it was a similar outcome. It just took longer. Anthony Joshua pulverized him. So, you know what I mean? If Al Heyman's just put on mismatches and fights his fighters can win, why aren't they winning versus Anthony Joshua? You know what I mean? And furthermore, it shows that Anthony Joshua, who's with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, Al Heyman's willing to work with them. So, if Luis King Kong Ortiz went over there, then that, to me, that's the best look. Second would be like a Rock Nation, a new imprint that they don't really separate or segregate their talent. It's just, you got guys like Guillermo Rigondeaux, guys like Andre Ward. Those two names right there aren't guys with Canelo type of fan bases. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that hate those guys, hate their styles, and Rock Nation is taking a chance on them based on their talent, right? And then if they added Luis King Kong Ortiz, I think they would try their best to market him, right? That's just my opinion. Next question, TZ Frank. What do you make of the video posted of Floyd working out on the jump rope a couple days ago? Does it mean a comeback is near, or is he just staying in shape? Love the channel, hashtag new media. That was not a current video, and I know that for a fact because I actually used the video, and I would try to pull it up, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it. But I used that video and I edited with it. I think it was for the Floyd Pacquiao fight. We're gonna test my memory real quick. I don't remember. I do so many videos, I don't remember exactly. But yeah, I was covering that fight extensively, and I know for a fact that I seen that video before. It's on here somewhere, I just don't know where it's at. It was part of my Camp Life series. So, I'm not sure. But I know I've seen that Mayweather clip. So the one he posted on his, I think it was Instagram or something, that wasn't a new clip because I literally seen it. I want to say, I thought it was on this one. I don't remember though. I know I've seen that clip before of Floyd. Because I think he even has the same fit on right now in this shot. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I know for a fact that's not a current clip of Floyd Mayweather training. So I wouldn't think too much of it. I don't think that means he's back because all he did was re-upload a former training clip that he already had in the can. It was like archived. Maybe it was Mayweather versus Berto. I'm not really sure. Oh fuck, where was it? See, I'm an Aries. I have a one-track mind, so shit like this bothers me because I know for a fact I seen that. I don't know. Maybe it was this video. But see, as you can see, this is from 2015. Yeah, I'm not sure. You might have me stumped. I don't remember exactly what video, but I know I've edited with that video. It's probably on my computer somewhere. So that was all that was. Floyd Mayweather had just posted an old clip that he had of him working, and he posted on Instagram and with a motivational caption. So I don't make anything of that. That doesn't mean he's necessarily coming back to me. Next question is from Reese the comedian. Do you think Loma can move up in weight classes like Pacquiao did? Maybe to 140. Of course I do. I think Lomachenko is highly talented. I think he's athletic and he has a style where he can give people problems. He's pretty big at his current weight. So I definitely think he can. Pacquiao is a guy like a Roy Jones, like a Sergio Martinez, who relied on athleticism. So guys who are more technically and fundamentally sound and athletic like Lomachenko, they definitely have a future for moving up. That's just kind of how it goes. Because if Pacquiao can do it, then guys who have more technique can definitely do it. Marquez has moved up in weight divisions. Cotto's moved up a couple weight divisions. Floyd. So I definitely see Lomachenko as being special enough too. Next question, Avery Vice. Hey, Boxingego, I enjoy your channel. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. And I definitely will. Do you think Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence will be a good fight? I answered that earlier. Yes. For the vacant IBF title, if Kell Brook decides to duck Spence and vacate his belt, yeah, I definitely love the fight. I said that earlier in this video. I don't know where Shawn Porter is ranked in the IBF, but he should probably be ranked somewhere. He had the IBF belt before, and he lost it to Kell Brook. So if Kell Brook does vacate, he's probably somewhere in the rankings. You know what I mean? So hopefully they can make a mega fight like that for the vacant belt. Also, the winner could fight Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia for a unification bout. And I'm never going to say no to that. I'm always agreeing to unification bouts, especially when they make sense and have high profile names. So I think that's an excellent idea. Next question, lightskin_nerd21. If Guerrero wins in an impressive fashion, which he should, so you wrote that before because he didn't win, what do you think is a good fight for him to make next? And I kind of went over that earlier in the video, but just to recap: Adrian Broner, Amir Khan, Josecito Lopez, Devin Alexander, Chris Algieri. That's the echelon of competition I think he should fight next if he wants to continue fighting. I don't think he looked great in his last fight, so it is what it is. And I meant to hit this one. Next question is Iron Wolf. Yo, man, awesome fucking content. 1, do you think Amir Khan will fight Conor? No. It's a big payday for Khan, and ain't no fight gonna pay better. I mean, obviously I'd watch it because it's just like the Floyd fight on a smaller scale. It's a circus type fight where it's a crossover fight. So I would watch it. Conor McGregor has a big mouth and knows how to sell the fights. Amir Khan's confident. Even after being knocked out, he still says stuff that he shows he's confident. So I would watch it, but I don't think it'll happen, to be honest. And that's just because I haven't heard Conor McGregor really respond to him like that. He was talking all this about fighting Mayweather and vice versa, but you don't really hear him talking about Amir Khan. At least I haven't. So I don't think it would happen, but I would watch it because it's a circus fight. Number 2, do you think Anthony Rumble Johnson has a chance of fighting DC for the title, or will Jones snatch the opportunity? Keep on doing what you're doing. # new media. He might get that rematch with Cormier. Not sure what's going on with John Jones, because last I heard he got the failed drug test and he got suspended, but then they're saying he didn't test for what they said he tested for, and he might have good news. So that depends on what happens in the drug test, failed positive test circumstance, that whole little situation. Because if he comes out skate free and his ban is lifted, then I think Cormier versus John Jones is a bigger fight. And Cormier, Rumble got cracks. That's what it boils down to. Rumble got cracks, and he'll bring less to the table. John Jones can crack you, and he's a good fighter, hell of a fighter. But Rumble has that one punch, one hitter quitter type of power, and I think that Cormier in the first fight realized how strong Rumble Johnson is. And if you look at Rumble's last fight versus Glover, he knocked him out quick. So I don't see Cormier. Rumble Johnson is that high risk, low reward type of fight. Well, not low in the UFC because he definitely has a name, but it's not going to bring as much as the John Jones fight. You know what I mean? And even the John Jones Cormier fight, Cormier had to get Rumble on the ground. You know what I'm saying? And then he like zapped his energy. So Rumble probably learned from that. The John Jones Cormier first fight is probably overall a bigger fight. And I think based on how the first fight looked, there's less chance of Cormier just getting like knocked out with one punch. But I think that risk is higher for Rumble Johnson. And I'm not comparing the talent level of John Jones to Rumble Johnson, but just styles make fights. And Rumble Johnson's a dangerous punching, powerful puncher, you know what I'm saying? So I think Cormier, if John Jones can clear up his situation, would probably rather fight John Jones. Plus he has bad blood with him, and it is what it is. So I think that it will be likely if John Jones can get his shit cleared up. And actually, I did thumb up your question. You put it twice, so I knew I did. So I already answered this Rumble Johnson question. Last question of the video. Ali Diego 619, with Ward versus Kovalev officially set for November 19th. How many pay-per-view numbers would you consider a success for this fight? I say 300,000. Yeah, I think right around there is definitely a success. You look at Triple G versus Lemieux. I'm not saying that was the most meaningful fight because Lemieux hadn't really been tested. You know what I mean? He won a vacant title, things like that. And Tom Loeffler said 200,000 would be considered a success. HBO opted not to air Pacquiao's fight and to go all in on the Ward Kovalev fight. So I think 300,000 or better would be great numbers. If we could do 500, 600,000, then that's probably exceptional for HBO, who has struggled in the sporting and the boxing department. So I think 300 is a fair number for them to get. I mean, and you have to look at Crawford Postal. That did 50,000. You know what I mean? Pacquiao Bradley probably did 300 to 450,000. So if Ward and Kovalev, two guys who aren't as big as stars, plus their salaries probably aren't as big as Pacquiao getting 20 million guaranteed to fight Bradley in the third fight, and stuff like that, then I think there's probably less that they have to invest into the fight money-wise in terms of promotion, because this is kind of a ready-made fight. it's a dangerous fight for Ward, and it's a dangerous fight for Kovalev. So, you know what I mean? It's pretty much ready-made. You don't have to overly promote this one. You just have to promote it, build it up, do your flyers, do the face-offs, and hopefully some HBO programming. But it's not like Pacquiao Bradley 3 where you really have to explain to us why we're going to pay for pay-per-view for that, because people thought Pacquiao beat Bradley 2 other times. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a fight people were really clamoring for. This is a fight I think people are, and they know and recognize as this will solidify the #1 pound for pound / #1 light heavyweight in the world. 2 undefeated guys. Let's have it. 300,000, very solid number. Let me know how you guys think I did Monday Mail Day. Try to get to a lot of questions. I will be back next week. Good old-fashioned boxing talk. Hit the like button, the subscribe button as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next videos, Ego signing off.